Hi folks, Michael Mann here with N to Z Toolbox, and I'm excited to bring you our next video in the series answering questions submitted by young professionals. And today's question, super important. It gets to the tension that can exist between being hungry and eager and pushing, but also having patience to be able to work the process. And this question comes to us from Elizabeth, and here's what she asks along those lines. Elizabeth says, how do you keep a healthy balance between living in the present and enjoying where you are and pursuing what's next? And again, this is such a relevant question for us in our 20s as we kind of transition from school to the professional career and into being grown-ups. All right, now the first thing I would say is you have to, as I mentioned in the intro here, really understand the difference and the need for both hunger and patience. Let's start with hunger first. And I heard this yesterday on a Zoom call I was able to be a part of where a guy said, I would much rather try and restrain a Mustang who's kicking and pulling and trying to get here and there than to try and kick a mule and to try and drag someone along who doesn't have motivation. They're just, tell me what to do and I'll do it. You've encountered these kinds of people, right? There's a ton to be said for and a ton of a good and healthiness about constantly pushing for more and constantly striving to accomplish more and to, as Elizabeth says, to pursue what's next. And so keep in mind, if you're going to miss on the side of being eager and of being a Mustang and having to be pulled back a little bit. But with that being said, you don't need to miss. You don't need to be a Mustang or a mule. And the analogy this guy yesterday used was to be a thoroughbred, to know when to be calm, when to be relaxed, when to work the process, but then to know when those gates open to fire out of the gates and run a good race and win first place, right? Kind of that in between. And as I've talked about in the past, kind of that pendulum of having it fall at the right place and not be swung too far to the mule side or too far to the Mustang side. Patience is an integral part of your life, really, but definitely of your career, especially early on. And if you correlate it to your college experience, no one ever got their degree in 4 weeks. It takes, for maybe huge overachievers, 3 years, probably including AP classes, which would equate to 4 years. Anything worth doing takes time. You don't grow a relationship with a significant other or a friend in a couple of hours. It takes months and often years. And it's the same thing in our career, right? And so the way I think about it is take time, maybe weekly, definitely monthly, to think about your future and what work do you enjoy? What are your values? What's important to you? Who are you trying to be? Where are you trying to get to? But don't spend too much time on that. Just make sure that you're clear on that and your trajectory is aimed in that direction. And then reel it back in and focus on the task at hand or the person in front of you or the day or the moment that you're presented with right now. Some of what Elizabeth's getting to in this question, as she says, living in the present and enjoying where you are is not just how do I survive or ride out where I'm at, but how do I thrive? How do I have happiness and joy and focus on others and impact day in, day out? And so again, I would challenge you quantitatively, spend much more time focusing on where you're at, putting down deep roots, producing great work and great results. And as Bill Belichick says, simply on doing your job. Sometimes people can be looking so far out in the future, and I just want to shake them and say, just do your job. If you would take your skills and your work ethic, do your job and kind of work the process with even a little bit of patience right now, then you will get to where you're wanting to go. But when you're just looking out in advance, you're missing the opportunity to succeed today, and no one will ever advance you on to future opportunities. It just doesn't make sense if you haven't done your current job. Successful people are never satisfied, and they know there's more mission to pursue and more impact to be had, but they're also patient enough to work the process. And it's kind of like an athlete who sits on the bench, is okay to be the second or third stringer for a period of time, but isn't slacking at practice, but they're still showing up, they're busting it, they're giving their best. And then when the starter graduates or transfers or heaven forbid gets injured, then that person's there and they're ready to hop in and step up. You have to know and be clear on the fact that the process will take years. You will not progress to anything of real significance, whether it's starting a business or getting where you want to be in your career, making as much money as you want. You will not advance to that within months. It's going to take years and maybe even a decade or more. Listen to how my favorite content guy, James Clear, talks about this. He emailed this out last week. He says, the visible progress you're hoping for usually comes slower than you would like. Even with consistent effort, it can take a long time before progress feels significant. It might be a year of writing and editing before the book really starts to come together. You may need 2 years of recovery from a major injury before you notice how far you've come. It may take 2 years of yoga before you realize how flexible you've become. Take a deep breath, stop worrying about immediate results, and settle into a nice routine. And so are your habits, is your routine, is the way you're working and communicating and spending your time today, is that going to be something that will be able to grow and compound, just like compound interest, over the years to get you where you want to go? Or are you wasting your time being so focused on and excited about 2 or 5 years from now, at which point you turn around and you won't even be where you wanted to be? And so don't miss the blessings and the people and the opportunities of today. There's so much right in front of us that we can just be stressed or just hurrying around and miss those benefits that we have. Slow down a little bit, focus on those, focus on doing your job, on working the process, but don't just be a fly on the wall. Be active, be communicative, be thinking about the future, and then do the smart things, make the daily small investments that will get you to that point later on. At which point you'll realize, okay, now I want to look towards the future again and towards what's next, right? There's always a new finish line and a new starting point for wherever you're at. Elizabeth, I hope this has been helpful and encouraging in answering your question. And again, play the long game, have a long-term view, and you will not be disappointed. This is what I've done. I've seen others do in their career. I've seen people do the opposite, and they often bounce around from business to business to leader, and they never progress or really gain any traction. Or if they do, it just takes a good deal longer, and it's not the wise play and the most efficient play, even though at the moment it might seem like it's going to take you longer. This is the smart long-term play. I hope this has been helpful. Hope it's given you insight that you can take and work into your daily routine. As always, if you have questions, shoot me an email, michael@nztoolbox.com. I have resources on my website, more of these videos, blog posts, just stuff coming out to try and help grow and benefit you as you move through your 20s, towards your 30s, and progress in your life and in your relationships and in your career. Thanks, and I hope you have a blessed and productive day. See you soon.